In the history of the NBA, 30 franchises have competed for glory. But only one man made an entire conference bow down for a decade. They were all Hall of Famers, all legends in their own right. Yet none of them won a championship in the 1990s. Why? Because of one man. Between 1991 and 1998, over 100 All-Stars played in the NBA's Eastern Conference. Together, they combined for 0 championships, unless they played alongside Michael Jordan. This is the story of how Michael Jordan turned the NBA's Eastern Conference into his personal kingdom, and why we may never see anything like it again. Before he dominated the NBA's Eastern Conference, Michael Jordan's legend began in North Carolina. Growing up in Wilmington, Jordan was famously cut from his high school varsity team as a sophomore, standing only 5'11" at the time. But by his senior year, after growing to 6'3", he averaged a triple-double, 26.8 points, 11.6 rebounds, and 10.1 assists per game. At UNC, under legendary coach Dean Smith, Jordan's clutch gene emerged early. With 17 seconds left in the 1982 NCAA Championship game, the freshman hit what would become his first iconic shot, a 16-foot jumper to beat Georgetown and Patrick Ewing, foreshadowing their future NBA rivalry. The 1984 NBA draft changed basketball history. The Portland Trail Blazers infamously selected Sam Bowie second overall, leaving Jordan for the Bulls at third. Chicago was coming off a 27-55 season in a conference where the previous year's finals had featured Larry Bird's Celtics and Julius Erving's 76ers. Jordan's NBA debut on October 26, 1984, set the tone for his career. He scored 16 points on 5 of 16 shooting against the Washington Bullets. By his third game, he exploded for 37 points. After scoring 45 points against the San Antonio Spurs in his 9th game, veteran George Gervin said, "He's the most talented rookie I've ever seen." His rookie numbers were staggering. 28.2 points, 6.5 rebounds, 5.9 assists, and 2.4 steals per game. He shot 51.5% from the field, remarkable efficiency for a rookie guard. By December, he was already on the cover of Sports Illustrated with the headline, "A Star is Born." The 1986 playoff series against the Celtics showed both Jordan's individual brilliance and the gap he needed to close. His 63-point performance in Game 2 at Boston Garden still stands as the NBA playoff single-game scoring record. Jordan shot 22 of 41 from the field and 19 of 21 from the free throw line against one of the greatest defensive teams ever assembled. Yet the Bulls were swept, highlighting how far they had to go in the East. The late 1980s brought Jordan face-to-face with his greatest nemesis, the bad boys Detroit Pistons. Led by Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Bill Laimbeer, and Dennis Rodman, the Pistons implemented the infamous Jordan rules, a defensive strategy specifically designed to neutralize the game's most unstoppable force. Pistons coach Chuck Daly explained the Jordan rules. On the wings, we forced him to the middle, where we had help waiting. In the middle, we forced him to the sidelines. When he got the ball in the low post, we doubled from the top. When he went high, we doubled from the bottom. And every time he drove, we put him on the ground. The strategy worked brutally well. In the 1988 conference finals, Jordan averaged 27.4 points, but shot just 49% from the field, well below his season average. In 1989, despite Jordan's 29.7 points per game, the Pistons won in 6 games. The 1990 series was perhaps the most painful. Jordan averaged 32.1 points, but Chicago lost in 7 games. Jordan's response? He added 15 pounds of muscle between 1989 and 1990, knowing he needed to get stronger to withstand Detroit's punishment. He spent countless hours in the weight room, transforming his body while keeping his explosive athleticism. During this period, Jordan's legendary work ethic reached new heights. He would arrive hours before practice to work on specific moves designed to counter the Pistons' defense. Assistant coach Johnny Buck later revealed that Jordan would practice for hours after being knocked down in games, learning how to protect himself and still finish plays. "The loss to the Pistons became my motivation," Jordan would later say. "I was physically beaten up, but I couldn't let them break me mentally." Here, enter Phil Jackson and the triangle offense. The new system wasn't just about Jordan anymore, it was about making everyone better. Scottie Pippen emerged as a superstar, Horace Grant became a force, and Jordan became unstoppable. In 1991, everything changed. The Bulls didn't just beat the Pistons, they swept them. The lasting image of that series wasn't Jordan celebrating, it was the Pistons walking off the court before the game ended, refusing to shake hands. The torch hadn't been passed, it had been taken. "We had to go through hell to get here," Jordan said, tears streaming down his face as he clutched his first NBA championship trophy. But this wasn't the end of the story, it was just the beginning. From 1991 to 1993, Jordan turned the Eastern Conference into his personal playground. Patrick Ewing's Knicks, Reggie Miller's Pacers, the Cleveland Cavaliers. They all fell before him. The question wasn't if Jordan would win, but by how much. During this stretch, Jordan led the league in scoring every year, averaging over 30 points per game. In the playoffs, he was even better. The Eastern Conference threw everything they had at him: double teams, physical defense, trash talk. Nothing worked. There was the time he scored 69 points against the Cavaliers, the series where he averaged 45 points against the Heat, the game where he switched hands mid-air against the Lakers in the finals. Each moment added to the legend. In October 1993, at the height of his powers, Jordan shocked the world by retiring. The Eastern Conference breathed a collective sigh of relief. The New York Knicks, led by Patrick Ewing, finally reached the NBA Finals. But their celebration would be short-lived. While Jordan was trying his hand at baseball, the NBA felt different. The Eastern Conference was competitive, but it lacked something. It lacked that transcendent figure who could capture the imagination of fans worldwide. Then, in March 1995, two words changed everything. "I'm back." Jordan's return to the NBA wasn't just about basketball. It was about reclaiming his throne as the king of the Eastern Conference. When Jordan returned full-time for the 1995-96 season, he was a different player. Still dominant, but smarter, more efficient. The result? The Bulls won 72 games, a record that stood for 20 years. The Eastern Conference had evolved during his absence. Teams were bigger, stronger, and more tactical. But Jordan had an answer for everything. When the Knicks got physical, he got more physical. When the Pacers tried to outshoot him, he outshot them. The 1998 Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers would prove to be Jordan's greatest test. Led by Reggie Miller, the Pacers pushed the Bulls to 7 games, the only Eastern Conference team to do so during Chicago's championship runs. "If I had to pick a team that gave us the toughest time in the East, Indiana was probably the toughest," Jordan later reflected. "Every time I'd go in that game and come out, I got a new scratch. It became personal with me." But like every other Eastern Conference challenger before them, the Pacers learned what everyone else already knew. When it mattered most, Jordan was unstoppable. The numbers tell an astounding story. In the Eastern Conference playoffs alone, Jordan averaged 33.4 points per game, the highest in NBA history. His Bulls teams went 24-7 in the Eastern Conference playoff series during their championship years. Ask Patrick Ewing, ask Charles Barkley, ask Reggie Miller. They'll all tell you the same thing. Jordan didn't just beat the Eastern Conference, he broke their spirit. He turned all-time greats into supporting characters in his story. What made Jordan the GOAT of the East wasn't just his scoring, it was his complete domination on both ends of the floor. 9-time All-Defensive First Team, 3-time Steals leader. The only player to win both Defensive Player of the Year and scoring titles in the same season. By 1998, everyone knew it was coming to an end. The last dance. But even in his final season, Jordan showed why he was the greatest the Eastern Conference had ever seen. One last time through the gauntlet. One last series of battles. One last chance for the Eastern Conference to stop him. And one last time, they failed. That final shot against the Jazz wasn't just about winning another championship. It was the perfect ending to the greatest Eastern Conference career we'll ever see. 6 championships, 8 Eastern Conference titles, a 24-7 record in the Eastern Conference playoff series. Jordan didn't just conquer the Eastern Conference, he redefined what was possible. Today's stars grew up watching Jordan dominate the East. They tried to copy his fadeaway, his competitive drive, his will to win. But there will never be another like him. Michael Jordan wasn't just the greatest player in NBA history, he was the ultimate Eastern Conference warrior. In an era when the East was at its toughest, he proved himself to be the toughest of them all. What do you think about Jordan's Eastern Conference legacy? Could any modern player ever match his dominance? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more NBA stories and legends.